politics, cultural exchange, social life and ecological issues. These are only few areas where international organizations implement their projects. They cooperate with public and private partners, and preserving peace for future generation is their principal goal. How do they arrange their work? What role is given to Kazakhstani initiatives? You'll find more on this in Kazakhstan International Vectors. UNICEF is one of the mechanisms of children's rights protection. The UNICEF activity covers the entire world, and in our region its work is based on the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. England of the 19th century. Rapid industrial development led to shortage of labor. With a view of economy, some employers started hiring minor workers. As usual, girls were market sellers, boys were assistants in workshops. However, the majority of them were chimney sweeps, as they could easily pass through narrow flues. The authorities were aware about such workers and made quite a lot of efforts to return them to schools. The exploitation of young chimney sweeps became even punishable by a strict fine. And even 150 years later, children continue to work at factories and in fields. In Bangladesh, for instance, 12% of workers are minors. They earn less than $2 per 20-hour working day. Everything is due to the fault of economic challenges, which force one half of Bangladesh minors to abandon studies even without finishing a primary school. The employment of 10-year-old children has been officially permitted by Bolivian authorities. At the same time, they will be obliged to continue visiting their schools and obtain work permissions from their parents and from a children's rights commissioner. According to country's Vice President Alvaro Garcia, the new legislation is vital for the local economy. The total number of officially working teenagers in Latin America reaches 13 million people. Nevertheless, not all the countries support this type of employment. The exploitation of child labor is prohibited in 154 states, but according to international organizations, 250 million children are still currently employed in agricultural and industrial sectors. Even the world-famous brands involve hundreds of thousands of minors in labor and, as a result, get billions of dollars of profits. Child labor entails another global problem. Millions of youngsters remain uneducated. Economists have already calculated that such a number of unqualified workers will create a new wave of unemployment as early as within the next 10 years. How does the world community solve the problems of lost childhood? And what other rights of minors are being violated in full view of international organizations? In 2013, an unusual school under a railway bridge has opened in New Delhi. There, an ordinary shopkeeper teaches children from poor families the elementary grammar and reading. Every morning, more than 50 kids aged from 4 to 14 visit 2-hour classes. A black rectangle painted right on the wall serves them as the blackboard. And this is an ordinary school of Kazakhstan. There are more than 7,500 of educational institutions like this throughout the country. Among them are specialized gymnasiums and usual secondary schools. The state program of education development, valid until 2020, has been introduced. It is intended not only for pupils, but also for teachers who should regularly advance their skills.
So now please complete this text with using these pictures, okay? These pictures are very interesting. Okay, well done.
Education is perhaps one of the main branches of development of any country. Education gives our children the possibility of self-development, manifesting their individuality and self-actualization during school days and in adult life as well.
You have to ask
Antonina Kim has been working as an English teacher at primary school for 2 years. She says that she was dreaming about this work from early childhood. Nowadays, any school materials are available in the internet, and making classes more diverse and interesting is quite easy, she adds. Studies are an integral part of childhood and a right of every child, and the work should not be an obstacle for that, Antonina Kim says. Representatives of many international organizations have the same point of view.
К сожалению, детский труд
Unfortunately, juvenile labor has become a part of children's and teenagers' life in quite many countries, mainly in states with underdeveloped economies where the major part of population is poor. As a result, children there have to work in order to support their families. All over the world, UNICEF is regarded as the most influential child rights defender. Its representatives have been monitoring the observance of the Convention of the Rights of the Child for more than 70 years. This very document completely excludes exploitation of children. United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, is an international organization created to fight for the rights of children around the world. It has offices in 191 countries and the headquarters in New York City. The research of the International Labour Organization has shown that children in developing countries often become employed by family businesses, farms, farmlands and small production facilities.
Очень важно, чтобы действительно понять, где...
It is very important to understand the difference when children just help their parents and when they are exploited, be it in Southeastern Asia, Africa or some other countries. Any activity carried out under a careful control can be a valuable experience in further life, psychologists say. Nowadays, special camps and child centers are functioning in many countries. They allow kids to master various skills by means of games. In such a way, children integrate into the society and develop their creativity and imagination.
И мы хотим...
We want all children get a qualitative education, have the possibility to study and enhance their potential, or in other words, see their future. Eradication of child labor all over the world is one of the global objectives of both the international community and UNICEF. Representatives of the organization cooperate with governments and parliaments of various countries and assist them in the development of relevant legislations. For instance, age limitations have been set for many types of jobs. Social assistance and educational programs have been adopted and continue functioning. In 1973, the International Labour Organization has ratified the Convention on the Minimum Age for Admission to Employment. In 1999, Convention concerning the prohibition and immediate action for the elimination of the worst forms of child labor. These documents have become fundamental in the fight against the exploitation of minors. Along with UNICEF, some other international associations have also joined this long-lasting campaign. Thus, in 2002, the International Labour Organization announced the 12th of June as the World Day Against Child Labour. The measures that had been taken reduced the number of juvenile workers by 1/3. The international community has set a task to end the child exploitation forever as early as in the upcoming year. The major role of the Institute of the Family in this issue should also be mentioned.
И, конечно, очень важно здесь...
The role of the family here is very important. For parents, it is necessary to understand how excessive labor can affect physical and intellectual development of their child. The right for name, citizenship, education, protection against cruelty and exploitation, and many other things. Nowadays, UNICEF defends the interests of minors all over the world. However, it was not so all the time. The treatment of children and their protection by the world community have been radically changing during the entire history of humankind. In primitive communal system, children were regarded as nameless members of a clan or community. In medieval Europe, kids under 7 were treated as infants and after that were forced to work. The League of Nations was the first to deal with the issues of child protection. In 1919, the Child Welfare Committee was created. It was dealing only with the street children. In 1924, the League of Nations adopted the Declaration of the Rights of the Child. It was the first international document which stated that all of humanity should care about children's well-being.
И туда вошли, в первую очередь, такие вопросы.
First of all, it dealt with such issues as the children's right to life, normal living conditions, education and protection against all types of hard labor, as well as other rights.
Эксплуатации труда.
The system of international protection of children's rights acquired its final from after the World War II within the framework of the United Nations organization. The provisions of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, to which joined the entire world, were developed and formalized. Nowadays, in separate regions, the problems of children's rights protection are being solved by special UN institutions. The United Nations Children's Fund is the principal one. UNICEF has started its work in the region of Central and Eastern Europe and CIS as early as in the beginning of the 1990s. Its first projects were the initiatives in the area of water supply and sanitation, food supply and immunization of population, as well as resistance to the spread of infectious diseases. The organization carries out its activities in its member countries on the basis of observance of national priorities. In other words, its programs and projects are always focused on solving of the most topical problems and tasks.
Что касается...
The assistance to health system is the evident result of our work. We are also working upon improving the quality of public services, education system development and defending children's rights in cooperation with governments, in particular defending children against violence.
Образование.
Reducing the number of children in boarding schools is one of the priority areas of the UNICEF work. Indeed, the world statistics shows that only in Eastern and Central Europe and in CIS countries, about 1.5 million of minors are deprived of parental care. Many of them live with their relatives, and approximately 30,000 were placed in boarding schools. According to UNICEF, every 3 months in residential institutions lead to a delay in the development of the child for 1 month. It is expressed most clearly in children aged up to 3 years. Kazakhstan has also joined the UNICEF regional initiative on reducing the number of children living in boarding schools. The entire world community agrees that resources used for supporting of children deprived of parental care can bring much more benefits if invested into the development of family support services. The development of the concept of juvenile justice, juvenile courts and enhancement of the juvenile justice management system continues. The number of children in boarding schools is being reduced. In general, these are also important results of our work. UNICEF in Kazakhstan has been working for more than 20 years. Initially, its mission was vaccination and immunization of population. Ministries and non-governmental organizations have become its principal partners. The work here is being realized in accordance with the concluded memorandum.
За последние годы мы провели с ЮНИСЕФ.
For the last years, we conducted jointly with UNICEF a number of researches mentioned in our publications. These serious researches cover such issues as violation towards children in schools and children's vulnerability in the urban environment.
В государственных интернатных учреждениях.
Actors, singers and musicians. Currently there are more than 180 people who help UNICEF in reaching its goals. For example, one of football clubs annually donates 2 million euros from its budget to help children. UNICEF intends to continue defending children's rights all over the globe. Presently, in every country, the organization's representatives are developing new cooperation plans valid until 2020. Kazakhstan is going to create its own Institute of Children's Ombudsman. The work in this area has already begun. The collaborative links with national partners have also been established. UNICEF is interested in sharing with Kazakhstan with most advanced experiences in the area of social development and solving problems of mothers and children. On the other hand, we want Kazakhstan's experience to be actively used in other countries of the region and on the global level. In other words, we, to some extent, keep pace with initiatives proposed by the President and the government of Kazakhstan. Australian children invented a new language. Linguists from all over the world have been studying a unique dialect born in a small village of Lajamanu in the northern part of the country. The village has its own primary school, but in order to continue education, some children are sent to the bordering school in Darwin. People there speak only English, and classes there are also conducted only in English. However, children from Lajamanu developed their personal language called Walpiri Rampaku in order to communicate between themselves. It is a sort of mixture of modern English and the traditional language of Aborigines. Specialists consider that due to such a successful naturalization, the language has all chances to replace the existing dialect.